How did football grow from looking like this to this? Then you see, like most things nowadays, football was made in China. It all started about 2000 years ago when some Chinese villagers got bored and made a ball out of leather, feathers, and hair, and boom, the first football was made. None of that offside and red card nonsense, just a couple of guys kicking a ball between a bamboo cones in the streets of China, and it was called cuju. This cuju was played through medieval times in Europe, but roll on a couple thousand years to 1863 and modern football was born. On October 26, 1863, the English Football Association was formed, and the original football rule book was written. They prevented players from carrying the ball with their hands, banned violent play, and even introduced the offside rule or some weird version of it. With this new standard set of rules and the British Empire taking over the world, the game started to spread like wildfire. On May 21, 1904, FIFA was born. Around this time, some of the biggest football clubs we know today were created as leagues, started to form, and clubs started to play against each other. But in 1930, football would change forever. The first ever World Cup was played. Football became a global phenomenon, but not for long because football was about to enter its dark ages. In 1939, some Austrian man with a mustache wanted to conquer the world and kicked off some war. You might have heard of football was shut down. All competitions were cancelled. Most players were drafted into the military and football was at its lowest point in decades. One player would make his debut from Brazil and change the game forever. At 15 years, Pelé made his debut from Santos and just 2 years later became the youngest player ever to play in the World Cup. 17 years of age, and Pelé tore it up. 2 goals in the final, and Pelé became the youngest World Cup winner, a record that he still holds. Today, this World Cup birthed the first football superstar, a player who was not only a football player but a cultural icon. Pelé picked up another 2 World Cups from Brazil and a few goals along the way. Even though most of these goals were in friendlies, that doesn't stop him from flexing them on the grab, but at the same time that Pelé was cooking up on Brazilian legacy. Europe was about to cement itself as the home of football with the creation of European Cup. 16 teams from across Europe came together to fight for the trophy. Real Madrid won the first edition of the cup and the second, and a couple more in a row after that. They had what was considered to be the first ever super team with football icons. First ever superstar team with football icons who cemented Real Madrid as a European powerhouse in the years that followed. Football became known for its superstars, players that transcended the sport like Bobby Charlton and USO. But in 1966, 2 football players were about to rise to the top of the world and change the landscape of football in very different ways. Picture it in 1966. England had just won the World Cup. Red cards weren't even a part of the game yet, and 2 stars had just made their debuts from Man United and Ajax. George Best and John Cyrus, they both had more talent than you could even imagine, and both dazzled fans on the pitch. Cyrus was part of an Ajax team that revolutionized the style of football played around Europe. He was at the center of the new football philosophy. This wasn't the direct long ball into the box football that was known at that time. They played sexy football dynamics positions, one-touch passes, high pressing, which made for a better viewing experience for the fans, along with best results on the pitch. But George Best, on the other hand, was more focused on the rockstar life. Don't get me wrong, Best was a pure talent on the pitch. I'm talking dribbles and goals that England had never seen before, but man preferred to score off the pitch. Best was a celebrity. All the women wanted him, and he wanted all the women. Parties, bows, cars. He wanted a lot, and he had a lot. Cyrus and the Best enjoyed the late 60s and 70s at the top of the game, and both retired in 1984. Asking way for a new football icon to take over, the 1980s were a great time for football. It marked a significant rise in the televised football and also saw the rise of an Italian football with a 1982 World Cup victory for Italy and great success in the Champions League for AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Juventus. But the most notable part of this rise in Italian football was marked by the arrival of one player. On the 5th of July 1984, Napoli unveiled their new signing to a stadium full of 75,000 fans. This was none other than Diego Maradona. The Argentinian arrived on the shores of Naples and transformed the club from B-tier Italian side to winning their first ever league title and their second. It was the catalyst for Naples' golden era in a time when Italian football was so strong, although he did have a couple of controversies along the way, most notably 1986 World Cup quarter-final, the goal that broke England's heart, the hand of God. Maradona sent England out of the World Cup with a clear cheating moment that wasn't caught by the referee. Maradona went off to lift the trophy for Argentina, cementing himself as one of the greatest players to ever live in the early 90s. Maradona started to slow down. A career of substance abuse had finally caught up with him, and his talent could take him no further after testing positive for drugs. Maradona was given a 15-month ban from football and left Napoli. He made a return to football a couple of years later, but his history repeated itself. Another drug test and another ban until he eventually retired in the late 90s. Now the 90s were a significant time in the history of football. The offside rule was changed to the way we know it today, and at least most of us do. Sir Alex Ferguson had just been appointed as Manchester United manager, sparking a 26-year dynasty. Yancy took charge as the manager of Barcelona, implementing his total football philosophy. The European Cup was rebranded into the Champions League, and most notably, the English League was transformed into the Premier League. This shift to the Premier League structure saw a focus placed on TV rights and more focus on generating revenue. This would be the start of the big money coming into English football. This decade saw Man United rise to prominence in England, capping off the century with the first treble in English football. Real Madrid and Barcelona battled it out, ending the decade with 5 titles. Zinedine Zidane made his move to Juventus in 1996, where he would quickly become the best playmaker in the world and over in Brazil. There was a striker with talent that nobody had ever seen before. Ronaldo would make the move from cuju to PSV and then to Barcelona. His scoring rate was unheard of, having 200 career goals by the age of 20. He picked up back-to-back Ballon d'Ors in the 96 and 97 season and was undoubtedly the best player in the world. At that time, Zidane and Ronaldo faced each other in the World Cup final, where the Frenchman came out on top, bagging 2 goals to take home the trophy. Ronaldo made the move to Inter Milan, where he continued to fire goals in but just started to pick up a goal-serious injuries, which became a common problem throughout the rest of his career. As the century came to close and the 2000 came knocking, Real Madrid weren't playing around in their favor when they signed an 18-year-old kid from Portugal that would become the face of football. Cristiano Ronaldo landed in Manchester in 2003. He was a raw talent, lots of potential but an ineffective, lots of dribbles and tricks but no end product. Sir Alex Ferguson saw the talent in the kid and knew that he could turn him into a superstar with each season. Ronaldo just got better, 4 league goals in his first season, 5 in the second and 9, 17, and in 2007 season he broke the Premier League goal scoring record, bagging 31 league goals, also lifting the Premier League, the Champions League, and his first Ballon d'Or. 1 more seasons with United saw him lift a 3rd Premier League title in a row, before Real Madrid smashed the transfer world record, dropping 100 million on the superstar. 10 years, because as he signed for Real Madrid, there was a kid playing in the Barcelona who was making headlines week after week. Lionel Messi made his debut for Barcelona in 2004 after graduating from the academy, and just like Ronaldo, there was a season-by-season build-up, but his talent was undeniable. 1 year later, Barcelona would lift the treble, beating Ronaldo Man United in the final, where Messi covered 34 league goals and picked up his first ever Ballon d'Or. Now the year in 2009, 1 Ballon d'Or to Messi and 1 to Ronaldo. A Champions League each too, and they were now playing for the 2 biggest clubs in Spain, with a rivalry that spanned a century was about to get interesting. Spanish football was taking over. The Spanish national team would go on to win 3 tournaments back-to-back. Messi would pick up 4 Ballon d'Ors in a row, leaving Ronaldo for dust. That was it. Messi was the greatest player of all time. At just 25 years old, he had set records nobody would ever break, like his 91 goals in a year or 4 Ballon d'Ors, but Real Madrid and Ronaldo would bounce back in 2013 and 14, winning the Champions League and Ronaldo picking up back-to-back Ballon d'Ors. The season that followed, Barcelona formed one of the most iconic attacks in football. Emerson would score 122 goals between them in their first season together. In January 2016, Zinedine Zidane was appointed as manager of Real Madrid. This team would go on to win one Champions League and another, completing the three-peat. This also saw Ronaldo pick up yet another 2 Ballon d'Ors, leaving Messi and Ronaldo at 55 stalemate. Now I know that Messi and Ronaldo were the focus of this era, but there was a few other notable moments in this period. I'm talking about a World Cup final in 2016 that saw us on smoke, a penalty and a headbutt in a dramatic loss to Italy, a Brazilian nightmare in 71 loss in the 2014 World Cup to Germany, who won the whole tournament. Sir Alex Ferguson retired, marking the end of the Man United's golden years, and did the impossible, winning the Premier League as relegation favorites. Okay, now back to 2018 video assistant referee, or has been introduced. To be honest, isn't much better than the old system. France lived the World Cup with the emergence of a kid called Kylian, and the Premier League was taking back market share as they established themselves as the new league in the world. The money in the Premier League was more than any other league could compete with. The top managers were all of the Premier League to build super teams. Just yet 3 more Ballon d'Ors came Messi's ways as Ronaldo went bouncing from club to club. Now Messi has moved to MLS and Ronaldo to Saudi Arabia. Many players have followed in Ronaldo's footsteps as Saudi has emerged as a financial powerhouse in the world of football. This now makes room for the new era of football to take over.